My father, Richard Madison, a titan in the commercial real estate world, was always the bedrock of our family. Growing up in a sprawling estate nestled in the affluent suburbs, he instilled in me the values of legacy, ambition, and ruthless efficiency. I was his eldest son, groomed to take over Madison Holdings. From a young age, I was in his shadow, learning the ropes, absorbing his business acumen. My younger brother, Caleb, 2 years my junior, was different. Charismatic, charming, and effortlessly popular, he drifted through life with an easy smile, excelling at networking, but little else. He preferred the limelight to the grind, the celebration to the construction. Despite our contrasting personalities, we were always fiercely competitive, especially for father's approval. He often favored Caleb's easy charm over my meticulous planning, dismissing my cautious nature as lacking vision. Yet, when it came to major projects, it was always my strategic mind father relied on. 6 years earlier, my life had seemed meticulously crafted. At 32, I was the rising star at Madison Holdings with a meticulously planned career trajectory, a network of powerful friends, and a penthouse apartment overlooking the city. But the final piece of my perfectly architected life fell into place when I met Anya Sharma. She was a brilliant urban planner, passionate about sustainable city development, with a quiet strength that captivated me. We met at a civic development symposium, and our connection was immediate, intellectual, and deeply emotional. We shared a love for classic literature, challenging urban puzzles, and ambitious visions for transforming cityscapes. Our relationship progressed quickly. Weekend trips to global architectural marvels, long discussions about city design, and intimate dinners became our routine. Anya was sharp, perceptive, and grounded everything I hadn't realized I needed. After 18 months together, during a quiet dinner overlooking the city skyline, I proposed with a bespoke diamond ring designed to reflect her refined taste. She said yes without hesitation. Father was thrilled. This union, he declared, would solidify the Madison legacy, blending our business prowess with Anya's innovative vision. Then there was Caleb. Despite our lifelong rivalry, I chose him as my best man. It felt like a gesture towards maturity, an attempt to bridge the unspoken chasm between us. Our mother, Evelyn, had often insisted it would bring us closer. When I introduced Caleb to Anya at a family dinner, he complimented her excessively. His charm dialed up to 11. I noticed his hand lingering on her arm while he laughed a little too loudly at her jokes, but I dismissed it. Caleb was just being Caleb, always the flirt. Our engagement party, held at our parents' sprawling estate, was a lavish affair. Caleb, ever the showman, volunteered to coordinate the entertainment, ensuring everything was perfect for his older brother. Throughout the evening, I caught him watching Anya across the crowded room, his gaze a little too intense. But when our eyes met, he'd offer a quick, disarming smile and raise his glass in my direction. Later that night, as guests were leaving, Mother pulled me aside in the study. "Elias, dear," she said, her voice unusually subdued as she straightened a framed photograph. I noticed Caleb seems quite taken with Anya. He's been spending a lot of time helping her with the wedding planning, hasn't he? "He's just being helpful, Mom," I replied, feeling a faint prickle of irritation. "They're organizing the tasting for the caterers. And besides, he's still dating that gallery owner, aren't they?" Mother nodded, but her expression remained unconvinced. "Just be careful, honey. You know how your brother can get when you have something he admires. He always wants to shine for himself." I kissed her cheek, assuring her everything was fine. We were adults now, I told myself. Caleb was happy for me. How painfully, devastatingly wrong I was. The cracks in the foundation. 3 months before the wedding, I began noticing subtle, unsettling changes in Anya. She started working later, often answering texts at odd hours with the excuse of demanding international clients. Our usual evening runs were frequently rescheduled due to unexpected meetings. When we were together, she seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly and offering only partial attention to our conversations. More concerning, she began subtly criticizing things she once loved about me. My habit of sketching design ideas in the evenings, which she'd found endearing, now made me seem too absorbed. My favorite suit, which she once adored, now looked too conservative. Even my disciplined morning routine, which she'd praised as admirable, was suddenly rigid. Meanwhile, Caleb began calling me more frequently, always with questions about wedding details. "Just want everything to be perfect for my big brother," he'd say, though most of the planning was handled by our wedding coordinator. Yet, Caleb volunteered to help Anya with vendor meetings I couldn't attend due to my demanding schedule at Madison Holdings. One Thursday evening, Anya and I had dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. She barely made eye contact, responding to my stories about a new development proposal with one-word answers. When her phone buzzed for the 5th time, I reached my limit. "Is there something more important happening elsewhere, darling?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light despite the growing irritation knotting in my stomach. "Sorry, just a client emergency," she muttered, putting her phone face down on the table. "You know how it is before a major contract signing." Later that week, while unpacking Anya's gym bag, I noticed an unfamiliar, delicate scent clinging to her scarf. It was a musky, masculine cologne, not a perfume. When confronted, Anya explained she'd been in a late-night meeting with a new male investor, a Mr. Blackwell, who was quite assertive and had a tendency to hug goodbye. The explanation seemed plausible. I wanted to believe her. I called my longtime friend and confidant, Liam, expressing my concerns over a late-night scotch. "Every relationship gets jittery before the wedding, Elias," Liam reassured me, swirling his drink. "My wife and I fought constantly the month before our wedding, and now we've been married 10 years. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't dissolve." Mother, ever perceptive, noticed my anxiety during our weekly lunch. "You seem distracted, sweetheart," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "Wedding stress? Or something else?" I forced a smile. "Just busy with the final arrangements, Mom. Everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine. I started making more effort, thinking perhaps I'd been taking Anya for granted. I bought her thoughtful gifts, planned surprise weekends away, tried cooking her favorite meals. The more I tried, the more distant she became. Then came the pre-wedding dance lesson, an appointment Anya had been looking forward to for weeks. That morning, she called claiming an unexpected, last-minute flight to Chicago for an urgent client meeting. "Caleb can go with you, Elias?" she suggested, her voice oddly detached. "He knows my preferences for the first dance song anyway, and he's a much better dancer than you." When I hung up, I felt a wave of nausea. How did my brother know my fiance's preferences better than I did? Still, I accepted Caleb's offer to join me. Later that week, cleaning my car before a charity dinner, I found a small, ornate silver cufflink wedged between the passenger seat and the center console. I immediately recognized it as Caleb's, a gift from father on his 21st birthday. When I showed Anya the cufflink that evening, her face remained perfectly composed. "Oh, Caleb must have dropped it when I gave him a ride to the venue for the flower arrangements last week," she said smoothly. "He mentioned losing one." "You never told me you drove Caleb to the florist?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Didn't I? It must have slipped my mind," she replied, a faint shrug. It wasn't important. When I called Caleb, his explanation matched hers perfectly. Too perfectly. "Oh, thank goodness. I've been looking everywhere for that cufflink." Anya was kind enough to drive me since my car was in the shop. That night, I couldn't sleep, thoughts racing through my mind. Had they rehearsed their story? Was I being paranoid? My weight began dropping from stress, and dark circles formed under my eyes. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Eris Blackwell, without telling Anya. 3 weeks before the wedding, Anya suggested we postpone. "I'm worried about you, Elias. You're not yourself lately. Maybe we're rushing things." I broke down, begging her to tell me what was wrong, what I had done, how I could fix it. She held me, assuring me everything was fine, but her eyes were vacant, emotionless. That night, I woke at 3:00 in the morning to find Anya's side of the bed empty. From the hallway, I heard hushed voices from the guest bedroom. "Not now. He'll hear us. I know. Soon. I promise." The shattered blueprint. The next day, my resolve hardened. I decided to surprise Anya at her office with lunch. As I was leaving my apartment, my father called. "Elias, are you eating properly? Your mother says you've lost too much weight. We're concerned." "I'm fine, Dad," I replied, my voice falsely cheerful. "Just pre-wedding jitters. I'm actually bringing Anya lunch right now." "Good," he grumbled. "That girl better be treating my son like a king. If only he knew." The security guard at Anya's building recognized me and waved me through with a smile. On the elevator ride to the 12th floor, I checked my reflection, trying to smooth the worry lines etched between my eyebrows. The lunch bag in my hand contained Anya's favorite sushi from the upscale Japanese restaurant across from my office. When I reached the reception area, Anya's assistant, Maria, looked up from her computer, her eyes widening with surprise. Mr. Madison, we weren't expecting you today. Her gaze darted to Anya's closed office door, then back to me, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Anya is, in a meeting right now. That's okay, I said, lifting the lunch bag. I just brought her lunch. I can wait. Maria stood quickly, blocking my path. Actually, she specifically asked not to be disturbed. Perhaps I could let her know you're here? Something in her nervous manner, her desperate attempt to block me, triggered my suspicions. Is she alone in there, Maria? My voice was low, laced with a cold calm. Her hesitation told me everything. Before she could respond, I walked past her, my hand finding the polished steel handle, and pushed open Anya's office door. The scene burned into my memory forever. Anya, leaning against her desk, her hands wrapped around my brother Caleb's neck. His arms were tight around her waist, his head tilted, their lips locked in a deep, passionate kiss. Neither noticed me at first, giving me several excruciating seconds to absorb every horrifying detail. Anya's skirt pushed up, Caleb's tie loosened, the disturbing intimacy in their embrace that spoke of countless similar moments. When the door clicked shut behind me, they sprang apart, three faces frozen in a tableau of shock. Elias. Caleb recovered first, straightening his tie, his voice a strained whisper. This isn't what it looks like. Anya didn't even attempt such a transparent lie. Instead, she lifted her chin defiantly, her eyes cold. We didn't plan this, Elias. It just happened. The calm that washed over me was unsettling, almost dissociative. How long? My voice remained steady, a monotone. Caleb glanced at Anya, then back to me, his jaw tightening. Elias, let's discuss this privately. How long? I repeated, my voice still unnervingly level. 4 months, Anya answered, her voice surprisingly steady, since the engagement party. 4 months, nearly half our engagement. While I'd been meticulously planning our future, selecting wedding invitations, and choosing architectural designs for our dream home, they had been betraying me in plain sight. Caleb moved behind Anya's desk, distancing himself physically as if preparing for a business negotiation. I didn't mean for this to happen, Elias. Sometimes feelings change. I was going to tell you. After. After what? After the wedding? After our honeymoon? I pressed, my voice finally cracking. I was trying to find the right time, he said, his voice taking on the practiced smoothness he used for difficult client meetings. The lunch bag dropped from my hand, sushi tumbling to the floor. I trusted you, both of you. Anya, for once, had the decency to look uncomfortable, a fleeting flicker of shame in her eyes. It just happened, Elias. We tried to fight it. Don't call me Elias. The childhood nickname felt like another violation, another lie, and nothing just happens. For months, you made choices. Every secret meeting, every text, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye, knowing what you were doing, Caleb pressed the intercom button. Maria, please come in. Moments later, Maria appeared, pointedly avoiding my gaze. Please escort Mr. Madison out. He's upset. I'm escorting myself out, I said, my dignity somehow intact despite feeling utterly shattered inside. My gaze swept over them, burning the image into my mind. You deserve each other. In the elevator, the tears finally came, hot and blinding. By the time I reached my car, I was struggling to breathe between sobs. The drive home remains a blur. I only remember calling my parents from my apartment, curled on the bathroom floor, unable to form coherent sentences. Mother and father arrived within the hour, using their emergency key to enter when I couldn't bring myself to open the door. Mother held me while I told them everything, father pacing the living room, his face growing redder with each agonizing detail. I'll kill him, he muttered, clutching his chest. Richard, your blood pressure. Mother warned, though her own face showed equal fury. The next days passed in a haze of pain. Mother helped me call vendors to cancel wedding arrangements, painstakingly unwrapping gifts and arranging their return. Father handled the financial aspects, his legal team ensuring I recouped every last cent of wedding deposits and other shared expenses. When I returned Anya's engagement ring to her apartment, leaving it with the doorman, I couldn't bear to see her. A mutual friend inadvertently confirmed what I already suspected. Caleb had already moved his things into Anya's place. Most of his clothes were there, his personal items arranged on shelves that once held mine. Anya's email about dividing our shared assets was coldly efficient, mentioning that Caleb had helped her catalog my remaining belongings from her apartment. The betrayal ran deeper than I initially realized. Through mutual friends, I learned they had been meeting secretly whenever I worked late or traveled for business. Caleb had pursued her deliberately, finding excuses to see her alone, sending texts and photos when I wasn't around. The scandal spread quickly through our elite social circle. Some friends, loyal to me, sided with me. Others, swayed by Caleb's charm and father's influence, sided with him and Anya, citing my perceived coldness or obsessive work ethic as reasons for Anya's defection. Several admitted they noticed the intense flirtation between Caleb and Anya, but hadn't wanted to get involved. Their cowardice stung almost as much as the betrayal. Mother became my lifeline during those dark months. She brought food when I couldn't eat, listened to my tearful rants, and stayed overnight when the loneliness became unbearable. She tried repeatedly to mediate between Caleb and me, inviting us both to tense family dinners that inevitably ended in strained silence or bitter arguments. During one such dinner, Caleb, emboldened by Anya's presence, snapped after I refused to pass him the salt. "You always got everything first, Elias. The grades, the favored position at the firm, the perfect fiancé. For once, I got something before you did, and I got the better version." "Anya wasn't a prize to be won, Caleb," I replied, my voice shaking with rage. "She was the woman I loved and trusted. Mother put her fork down, her face drawn. Caleb, Elias, that's enough." "For what, Mom? Being honest, Anya chose me. She loves me now." I stood, napkin thrown onto my plate. "I can't do this anymore, Mom. I'm sorry." It was the last family dinner I attended with Caleb and Anya present. Father's heart problems worsened from the stress of his son's feud, requiring medication adjustment and additional doctor visits. Mother aged years in months, the lines around her eyes deepening as she tried desperately to hold her fractured family together. Rebuilding a life, stone by stone. 6 months after discovering Caleb and Anya's betrayal, I hit rock bottom. My therapist, Dr. Blackwell, diagnosed me with severe depression and recommended medication. My work suffered as I struggled to focus, eventually losing a major client after a disastrous presentation where I broke down crying in front of a horrified board. My boss, a longtime family friend, suggested a leave of absence, but I knew staying in Boston, where memories lurked around every corner, would only prolong my suffering. When a managing partner position opened in our London branch, an opportunity I'd once coveted but dismissed as too disruptive, I applied immediately. The interview went surprisingly well. My desperation for change, perhaps reading as raw ambition. 2 weeks later, I received the offer. Mother helped me pack my apartment, carefully wrapping photos and mementos in tissue paper. As we sorted through my belongings, deciding what to keep and what to donate, she broached the subject that hung between us. "Will you ever consider forgiving Caleb and Anya?" she asked, sealing a box with packing tape. I continued folding sweaters without looking up. "I don't know, Mom. Not now. Maybe not ever." "Forgiveness isn't about them deserving it," she said softly. "It's about freeing yourself, sweetheart." "I am freeing myself," I replied, my voice firm. "I'm moving to London." Mother sat beside me on the bed, taking my hands in hers. "Running away isn't the same as healing, Elias." Tears filled my eyes. "I need space to even begin to heal. Can you understand that?" She nodded, pulling me into a tight hug. "Promise you'll call. Promise you won't shut us out completely." "I promise," I whispered, the words barely audible. Saying goodbye to my parents was harder than I anticipated. Father held me longer than usual, his voice gruff with emotion. "You show them, son. Build a life so good they'll choke on their regret." My first weeks in London were lonely and doubt-filled. My sleek, modern flat felt sterile and unfamiliar. I worked long hours to avoid going home to empty rooms, eating takeout at my desk, and falling into bed exhausted each night. Then came the news that twisted the knife deeper. Mother called one Sunday morning, her voice cautious. "Elias, I feel you should hear this from me rather than social media. Caleb and Anya got married yesterday." The small, intimate civil ceremony had been featured in Boston society pages, Father's business connections ensuring coverage despite the modest scale. The accompanying photo showed them beaming outside a historic courthouse, Anya wearing a simple white dress, her left hand prominently displaying my former engagement ring. That night was my lowest point. I drank an entire bottle of expensive scotch alone, scrolled through old photos of Anya and me, and cried until my eyes swelled shut. I called in sick to work the next day, unable to face the world. But something shifted during those dark hours alone. As morning light filtered through my blinds, I made a decision. This would be the last day I gave them power over my happiness. I deleted all photos of Anya from my phone, blocked both her and Caleb on social media, and took a long, hot shower, imagining my pain washing away down the drain. At work, I threw myself into projects with renewed focus, channeling my hurt into relentless drive. My boss noticed the change, assigning me to more significant, high-stakes clients. I developed a reputation for innovative problem solving and unshakable dedication, earning respect in my new office. My first real London friend was Dr. Rast Inso, Lena Hansen, our company's head of data analytics, who invited me to join her weekly jogging club. Through her, I slowly began to build a social circle outside of work. Lena frequently tried to set me up on dates, but I declined each offer. The thought of romantic vulnerability, of exposing myself to that kind of pain again, was still terrifying. Months into my London life, I was sent to an exclusive global investment conference in Dubai to represent Madison Holdings. On the second evening, I attended a business dinner with potential clients. I found myself seated next to a formidable woman named Isabella Rossi, a prominent venture capitalist and entrepreneur who had recently relocated from New York. Isabella was different from Anya in every way. Where Anya had been quiet and artistic, Isabella was bold, brilliant, and fiercely logical. Her sharp wit and insightful questions drew people in without demanding attention. When she spoke about her work, her passion was evident, but never boastful. She asked for my card after dinner, and I gave it without expectation. To my surprise, she emailed the next morning asking if I'd like to continue our conversation about global market trends over coffee before the day's sessions. Over the next 3 months, Isabella and I maintained professional contact. She referred high-profile clients to my firm, and I introduced her to my growing network of European business connections. Lena, ever observant, noticed our frequent work lunches and raised an eyebrow. "She likes you, Elias, and not just professionally. We're just colleagues." I insisted, though a flicker of something new, something hopeful, stirred within me. "Colleagues don't look at each other the way she looks at you," Lena retorted with a knowing smile. Eventually, Isabella asked me to dinner at a restaurant completely unrelated to work. I panicked almost twice before forcing myself to go. 20 minutes into the date, discussing our favorite obscure philosophical texts, I had a full-blown panic attack. My hands shook, breathing became difficult, and tears welled in my eyes. Instead of being embarrassed or annoyed, Isabella, with astonishing calm, moved to sit beside me, speaking softly, guiding my breathing until my panic subsided. She drove me home without pressure or questions. The next day, a small, elegant orchid arrived at my office with a note. "No pressure, no expectations, just hoping you're feeling better. Isabella." That evening, I called her and, haltingly, shared everything about Anya and Caleb. She listened without interruption, then shared her own story of heartbreak from her past marriage that ended when her husband left her for his business partner, taking half their joint company in the divorce. "Broken trust leaves scars, Elias," she said, her voice filled with understanding. "Anyone worth your time will understand that healing isn't linear." Over the following months, we built a foundation of friendship first. Isabella never pushed for more than I could give, respecting my boundaries while remaining steadfastly present. For our fifth date, she cooked dinner at her apartment instead of taking me to a crowded restaurant that might trigger my anxiety. When panic occasionally resurfaced, she knew exactly how to help me through it. For the first time since Anya, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, trust was possible again. 1 year after moving to London, I barely recognized my life. My promotion to managing partner came with a corner office overlooking the Thames. My circle of friends had expanded beyond Lena to include several close confidantes. And most surprisingly, I had fallen deeply in love with Isabella. Unlike Anya's fleeting passion, Isabella's love manifested in consistent, thoughtful ways. She remembered small details, like how I preferred my coffee black or which obscure history documentaries I followed. She respected my independence while offering unwavering support. Most importantly, she never compared me to anyone else or tried to change me. I met Isabella's brother, Matteo, during his visit from Milan. We connected immediately, exchanging numbers and developing our own friendship independent of Isabella. He told me stories of their childhood in Rome, painting a vivid picture of the girl who became the strong, compassionate woman I was growing to love. My relationship with my parents continued from a distance. I called mother weekly, carefully steering conversations away from Caleb and Anya. Father occasionally joined these calls, his gruff voice softening when telling me how proud he was of my fresh start, my success in London. I visited Boston twice that year, timing my trips when I knew Caleb and Anya would be away. Mother provided occasional updates about them. Their marriage appeared perfect on social media, Anya posting photos of lavish charity galas and Caleb showcasing new artistic collaborations. According to Mother, they had purchased a sprawling estate on the coast and were renovating it extensively. Caleb asks about you sometimes. Mother mentioned during one call. What do you tell him? I asked, stirring my tea. That you're doing well, that you're building an incredible life, she replied. Does he ever express regret? Mother sighed. In his way, he gets quiet when your name comes up. My therapy continued in London, my new therapist helping me process the lingering betrayal and build healthier relationship patterns. I learned to recognize my triggers and communicate boundaries effectively. Slowly, the nightmares about Anya and Caleb faded. In June, Isabella surprised me with a weekend trip to the Scottish Highlands. We stayed at a charming lodge overlooking a loch, spent afternoons hiking rugged trails, and evenings by a crackling fire, discussing everything and nothing. For the first time in years, I felt completely present and happy without the shadow of past betrayal hanging over me. On our last evening, walking through a wild, heather-covered moor, Isabella stopped beneath a majestic ancient oak. Elias, she said, taking both my hands in hers, this past year, knowing you has been the greatest gift of my life. When she knelt, producing a small, elegant box from her pocket, panic flashed briefly images of Anya's office, the cufflinks. The betrayal threatened to overshadow this moment. But looking into Isabella's warm, steady eyes, I saw only sincerity and pure, unconditional love. I'm not asking for an answer today, she said, seeming to read my momentary hesitation. I just want you to know that whenever you're ready, whether that's tomorrow or next year, I'll be here, waiting for you. Tears filled my eyes, but not from fear or pain. These were tears of pure joy, of overwhelming gratitude. Yes, I whispered, barely able to speak. I'm ready now. The ring was nothing like the ostentatious diamond I had given Anya. A simple platinum band with a single brilliant cut emerald, elegant and understated, like our relationship. That night, I called my parents with the news. Mother cried happy tears. She sounds wonderful, darling. When can we meet her? Soon, I promised. Very soon. We planned a small wedding, only 30 guests, at a historic London manor. At Mother's urging, I sent Caleb and Anya an invitation, more as a gesture toward healing, a promise I'd made to Mother, than an expectation of attendance. Their response came via email, brief and cold. Congratulations on your engagement. Unfortunately, we have prior commitments on that date. Best wishes for your future. Mother was disappointed but unsurprised. Give them time, Elias. This is progress compared to where you both were. Our wedding day arrived, intimate and joyful, filled with my parents, new friends, and Isabella's family. Father walked me down the aisle, his voice thick with emotion as he whispered, I haven't seen you this happy in years, son. Isabella's vows acknowledged our journey. Elias, I promise to remember that love is both strong and fragile, requiring care and commitment every day. I promise to be worthy of the trust you've given me, knowing how precious and hard-won that gift is. We built our life together in London, buying a brownstone that we renovated together, blending our styles into a truly unique home. My career continued advancing, eventually leading to a vice president position within Madison Holdings' European operations. Isabella's investment firm grew, focusing on supporting ethical, women-led tech startups. During a dinner with business associates one evening, I learned something that connected past to present. A venture capitalist mentioned working with Caleb years earlier. Caleb Madison, yeah. He and Isabella had quite the rivalry in the angel investing space about 7 years back. Isabella backed the right startup, Caleb backed the competitor. Isabella's pick got acquired for millions. Caleb's went bankrupt shortly after. He was quite bitter about it. Later that night, I asked Isabella about this connection. I was going to tell you eventually, she admitted, her hand in mine. I knew who you were when we met at that conference, Elias. Not the details of what happened, but that you had been engaged to Caleb Madison's wife. And I knew the kind of man Caleb was and what he valued from our professional dealings. Why didn't you say anything? I asked, my voice steady. I wanted you to know me for me, Elias, not as someone connected to your past. And I didn't want my history with Caleb to taint your perception of me. I wasn't angry. Somehow, the cosmic symmetry felt right. Isabella had not only healed my heart, but had also, unbeknownst to me, triumphed over Caleb in the very arena he valued most, business success. 2 years into our marriage, we began trying for a baby. Months passed without success, leading to fertility specialists and difficult emotional conversations. Through disappointments and medical procedures, Isabella remained my rock, holding me through tears and reminding me that family comes in many forms, that our love was enough. Then came the devastating call about Father's 75th birthday gala. Mother put on a brave face, but his heart issues, exacerbated by the family stress, had worsened. The gala was less a celebration, more a public acknowledgement of his enduring legacy, a carefully orchestrated event where he would formally announce my new role in London and the restructuring of Madison Holdings. Father was frail, but determined to attend. Isabella and I flew to Boston immediately, meeting with specialists and helping Mother navigate his care. Father had held on, waiting for the gala, waiting to see me. In the final weeks leading up to the gala, Father and I had precious, honest conversations about life, legacy, and family. One evening, as I helped him adjust his oxygen mask, he broached the subject of Caleb. I wish you boys could find peace with each other, he said, his voice weak but filled with raw emotion. Life is too short for such distance between brothers. I know, Dad. I replied, swallowing back tears. Promise me you'll try, Elias, not for him, but for yourself. And maybe a little bit for your old man. I promised, not knowing if I could keep it, but wanting to give him peace. Father passed peacefully 3 days later, Isabella, Mother, and I at his bedside. He had held on just long enough to know I was home, to know I was happy. I called Caleb immediately. Dad's gone, I said, the first direct communication we'd had in years. His sharp intake of breath was the only sound for several seconds. I'll be there in an hour, he finally replied, his voice breaking. We met at our parents' house, hugging briefly and awkwardly before turning our attention to Mother and the funeral arrangements. The real test, however, would come at Father's 75th birthday gala, which had been converted into a memorial. Years of hurt and anger would collide with fresh grief, Mother's fragility, and Father's final wish for peace. The morning of the gala dawned gray and drizzly, fitting the somber occasion. I stood before the mirror in my childhood bedroom, adjusting my black suit and wondering how I would survive the day. Isabella appeared behind me, stunning in her dark gown, placing her hands gently on my shoulders. I'm right beside you today, Elias, she said, meeting my eyes in the reflection. Whatever happens downstairs, we face it together. Mother sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at her untouched coffee. The past week had hollowed her out. Her elegant frame suddenly stooped with grief. At 72, she seemed to have aged a decade since Father's passing. Ready, Mom? I asked softly, touching her shoulder. She nodded, rising slowly. Richard always said funerals aren't for the dead, they're for the living. Never understood that until now. The ballroom was already filling with extended family and friends when we arrived. I stayed close to Mother, greeting people with mechanical smiles and accepting condolences from faces I barely recognized. Cousins from California, Father's college roommate, business associates from throughout Father's 50 years in commercial real estate. You look just like Richard at your age, my great-aunt Mildred said, patting my cheek. He would be so proud of the man you've become. How have you been, dear? Asked Father's longtime business partner, Mr. Henderson. London is treating me well, I replied, not adding that my brother's betrayal had prompted the move. As I guided Mother to her seat in the front row, Isabella at her other side, a murmur rippled through the gathering. I turned to see Caleb and Anya entering, their appearance causing heads to turn and whispers to spread. Anya wore an expensive black dress that highlighted her slender figure, diamond earrings catching the light. Caleb looked uncomfortable in his perfectly tailored suit. his arm possessively around Anya's waist in a show of forced support. Her left hand rested prominently on her clutch, the massive diamond engagement ring and wedding band, my former ring, impossible to miss. Mother stiffened beside me. "Evelyn, breathe," I whispered, concerned. They made their way forward, stopping to speak with various attendees, their smiles practiced, almost rehearsed. I kept my eyes front, focusing on the large, illuminated portrait of father displayed beside his urn, his warm, strong smile easing some of my anxiety. Eventually, they reached the front. Caleb embraced mother, who returned the hug stiffly. Anya hugged her briefly, her expression unreadable. Caleb shook my hand, receiving only a curt nod in response. "Elias," Anya said, turning to me with an expression I couldn't quite read, a mixture of feigned sympathy and underlying defiance. "It's been a long time." "Yes," I replied simply, not trusting myself with more words. Caleb nodded awkwardly. "Sorry for your loss, Elias." Isabella had stepped away briefly to speak with the event coordinator, leaving me momentarily alone with them. Anya seized the opportunity, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I need to speak with you privately." She gestured toward a side room, a small study clearly designated for quiet conversations. Against my better judgment, wanting to avoid a scene at father's memorial, I followed her. The small room contained only a few chairs and a box of tissues, clearly designated for mourners needing private moments. Anya closed the door behind us. Up close, I noticed a faint tremor in her hand, a subtle shift in her confident facade. "Elias," Anya began, her voice hushed, almost pleading. "I needed to talk to you. I'm so sorry about your father." The apology felt hollow, a practice line delivered without genuine emotion. She took a step closer, her eyes scanning my face as if searching for a weakness, a crack in my composure. And I'm sorry for everything that happened. I know I hurt you deeply. Caleb and we made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I echoed, my voice devoid of warmth. "Anya, you didn't make a mistake. You consciously chose to deceive me for months. You actively betrayed me. You married my brother with my ring." "That's not a mistake. It's a calculated act." The tremor in her hand became more noticeable. She flinched, her carefully constructed facade wavering. "You've changed," she murmured, a hint of genuine surprise in her tone. "You're different, harder." "I learned to be," I stated simply. "Betrayal has a way of hardening a person or breaking them." I chose the former. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized there was no flicker of the Anya I once knew. No genuine remorse in her eyes, just a desperate attempt to salvage her image, perhaps even to reassert some form of control. "What do you want, Anya? Why are you really here, in this room, with me?" She wrung her hands, her gaze darting to the closed door. I just wanted to clear the air. For father, for your mother, it's a memorial, Elias. We shouldn't have this tension." It was a feeble attempt at deflection, a desperate plea for me to let her off the hook, to forgive her for her own comfort. "And honestly," she continued, her voice gaining a defensive edge, "Caleb and I have heard about your success in London. It's truly remarkable. We just wanted to convey our best wishes for your future." It was a patronizing tone, a veiled attempt to minimize my accomplishments as a mere rebound. Before I could respond, the door clicked open. Caleb stood there, his eyes narrowed, scanning the room. "Anya, what are you doing in here? Are you harassing my brother?" His voice was laced with its usual false concern, an attempt to paint me as the aggressor. Anya immediately went to him, leaning into his side. "No, darling, Elias and I were just catching up." "There's nothing to catch up on," I stated, my gaze fixed on Caleb. "Our past is precisely that past, and it's staying there." Caleb bristled. "Look, Elias, it's Dad's memorial. Let's just be civil. We're here to pay our respects." He put an arm around Anya, pulling her closer, a possessive gesture. "Anya and I just wanted to apologize again for any misunderstandings from the past. We've moved on, and we hope you have too." A cool, confident voice cut through the strained air. "He certainly has." Isabella stood in the doorway, her presence commanding, her dark gown flowing elegantly. She met Caleb's gaze directly, an intelligent, almost amused glint in her eyes. "Elias, darling, Mother was asking for you, and I believe I haven't been properly introduced to your Family. Anya's eyes widened, her jaw dropping almost imperceptibly. Caleb's carefully constructed mask of civility cracked, replaced by a flicker of stunned recognition. Isabella? He breathed, his voice barely a whisper. Isabella Rossi? I felt a surge of quiet triumph, a profound sense of satisfaction. This was it, the moment they had no idea was coming. I walked to Isabella, taking her hand, my fingers lacing with hers, a gesture of undeniable intimacy. Caleb, Anya, I said, my voice clear and strong. This is my wife, Isabella. Isabella, this is my brother, Caleb, and his wife, Anya. The silence in the small room was deafening. Anya's face, which had been so carefully composed moments before, truly did turn white as a sheet. Her eyes darted from me to Isabella, then to Caleb, a panicked realization dawning. Caleb stood frozen, the possessive arm around Anya's waist slackening. He recognized Isabella, not just as a prominent figure in the investment world, but as the woman whose venture capital firm had backed his rival, leading to his spectacular business failure all those years ago. The very secret he'd been so bitter about. The architect's unseen invoice, indeed. It wasn't just my fiancé and my ring that Isabella now had. It was the public recognition, the professional triumph, the undeniable evidence that I had not only survived their betrayal, but had built a life far more successful, far more fulfilling than the one they had stolen. And I had done it with the woman who had inadvertently contributed to Caleb's professional downfall. Anya stammered, "Wife? You got married? When?" "A year ago," Isabella replied smoothly, her smile small but genuine. "A beautiful ceremony in London." She looked directly at Caleb, a hint of steel in her soft voice. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Caleb. Elias has told me so much about you." The subtle emphasis on so much hung in the air, loaded with unspoken history. Caleb's face contorted, a mixture of disbelief, fury, and humiliation. His carefully crafted image, his supposed victory over me, shattered before his eyes. He tried to recover, a nervous laugh escaping him. "Well, isn't this unexpected? Congratulations, Elias. A bit quick though, wasn't it?" "Not at all," I countered, my grip tightening on Isabella's hand. "When you find the right person, the one who truly values you, you don't waste time. And Caleb, Isabella is quite familiar with your professional history. It seems the universe has a funny way of balancing the scales, doesn't it?" Caleb's jaw clenched. He grabbed Anya's arm. "We should go. Mother will be wondering where we are." He practically dragged Anya out of the room, her face a mask of shock and dawning dread. They knew. They fully knew the depth of my revenge wasn't personal vindication, but the quiet, undeniable proof of a life well lived, a happiness earned, and a partner who stood shoulder to shoulder with me in every sense of the word. Isabella squeezed my hand. "Are you all right?" she asked, her concern genuine. "Never better," I replied, a profound sense of peace washing over me. "Thank you." We walked out of the study hand in hand back into the bustling ballroom. I could feel eyes on us, whispers following Caleb and Anya's hasty exit. Mother, seeing us, smiled, a genuine, joyful smile that hadn't graced her face since Father's passing. She rose, embracing Isabella warmly. "My dear, I'm so glad you're here. Elias, your father would have been so proud of this." The rest of the memorial passed in a blur of heartfelt condolences, shared memories of Father, and a quiet sense of triumph for me. Caleb and Anya remained distant, exchanging only strained pleasantries. Their usual confident swagger was gone, replaced by a subdued tension. The diamond ring on Anya's finger, once a symbol of my betrayal, now seemed a rather cheap imitation of the true, profound connection I had found. The journey from being a man shattered by betrayal to one standing firm and whole, surrounded by love and respect, had been long and arduous. I had learned that true legacy wasn't just about business empires or familial names, but about integrity, resilience, and the courage to rebuild. My father's strength was in his ability to build. Mine, I realized, was in my ability to rebuild myself, brick by painful brick. Isabella was not merely a partner, she was the cornerstone of my new foundation, a testament to what truly earned love and trust felt like. The wound of betrayal would always be a part of my story, but it no longer defined me. I was Elias Madison, architect of my own destiny, and finally, truly free.
Okay, let's dive in. Today, we're really unpacking a single source. It's this incredibly raw first-person account.
Yeah, the title is pretty intense. My brother stole my fiancée, but I got the ultimate revenge.
Exactly. And it's all about this devastating betrayal, family stuff, loss, and then, well, the long road to putting a life back together.
And our goal here, it's not just retelling the story, though it is dramatic. We want to pull out the insights, you know?
Right.
It's like a window into resilience, what happens when trust just shatters, and maybe what real fulfillment looks like after everything falls apart.
Learning about the architecture of a life, basically, how it's built, how it breaks.
And how it gets redesigned, piece by painful piece.
So we start with Elias. He's the narrator. Describes himself as this meticulous planner.
Right. Groomed for success in his dad's company, Madison Holdings, commercial real estate.
His life was planned out with what he calls ruthless efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And then there's his brother, Caleb, younger brother. The story paints him as the opposite, charismatic, charming, gets by on personality.
And there's this lifelong competition simmering between them, always vying for Dad's approval.
Yeah, and the father, Richard, he's like the bedrock, values ambition, legacy. But it's interesting.
How so?
Well, he seemed to prefer Caleb's charm on the surface, but the story makes it clear. When it came to big projects, serious business, he relied on Elias.
Okay. And the mother, Evelyn.
She's presented as the peacekeeper, trying to manage this rivalry between the sons.
Then Anya enters the picture.
Yes. Elias meets her at some kind of civic development symposium. She's an urban planner, described as brilliant, quiet strength.
And the connection is instant.
Seems like it. Not just emotional, but really intellectual. They bonded over books, urban planning puzzles, that kind of thing.
So it moves fast, 18 months, and he proposes.
Mm-hmm. With a bespoke diamond ring he designed himself. Very symbolic of his planned future.
And the father loves this match.
Oh, yeah. Thrilled. Saw it as cementing the Madison legacy, you know? Blending his business with her innovative planning skills.
This is also where Caleb gets pulled in more directly.
Right. Elias asks Caleb to be his best man. He sees it as like an olive branch, a gesture of maturity, trying to finally get past the rivalry.
There are signs already.
Right away, according to Elias. Subtle things. When Caleb meets Anya, his charm is just a bit much.
Like how?
Like his hand lingers too long on her arm, the way he looks at her is too intense. Elias kind of brushes it off at first. Oh, that's just Caleb.
Uh-oh.
But the mom sees it, Evelyn. She gives Elias this quiet warning early on.
What did she say?
She noticed Caleb was maybe spending a bit too much time helping Anya with wedding stuff, and she warns Elias basically, you know your brother when you have something he admires.
He wants the shine for himself.
Exactly. That's the quote. Just that quiet insight from someone who knows them best.
So the stage is set. Planned life, complicated family, perfect fiancé, and these little tremors starting underneath.
And those tremors, they don't stay little for long. About 3 months before the wedding, things really start to shift with Anya. Elias notices definite changes. Late nights at work become more frequent. Texts at weird hours, always blamed on demanding international clients.
Okay.
Their usual evening runs get rescheduled, unexpected meetings. And when they're together, she's distracted, always checking her phone.
That sounds familiar, unfortunately.
And what's really telling, psychologically, is how she starts subtly criticizing Elias.
Criticizing him. About what?
Things she used to love, like his habit of sketching ideas, his favorite suit, even his disciplined routine. Suddenly, they're framed negatively.
Wow. It's like she's building a case against him in her own mind.
Exactly. Or maybe justifying her own actions. And right alongside this, Caleb's involvement just ramps up.
In what way?
He's calling Elias more, supposedly about wedding details, always playing the helpful best man, you know, just want everything to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps volunteering to help Anya with vendor meetings when Elias has work conflicts. It all looks helpful on the surface.
But the pieces are starting to form a different picture if you're looking closely.
If you're looking, Elias at this point seems blinded by trust. But then specific things happen that are harder to ignore.
Like the dinner?
Yeah, the dinner where Anya's totally checked out, glued to her phone, claims it's a client emergency.
Okay. And the scarf incident?
Oh, right. He finds her scarf, and it smells like this unfamiliar cologne. Musky, masculine.
And her explanation?
The late meeting with Mr. Blackwell, who apparently had a tendency to hug goodbye. Elias says he wanted to believe her.
Clinging to that plausible deniability.
Totally. Then there's the missed dance lesson. Pre-wedding dance lesson.
What happened there?
Anya cancels last minute. Urgent flight, she says. But then she suggests Caleb should go with Elias instead.
Why Caleb?
Because, and this is the kicker, she says, he knows my preferences for the first dance song anyway, and he's a much better dancer than you.
Oof. Caleb knows her song preference better than her fiancé.
Yeah, Elias describes feeling physically sick hearing that. It's such a small detail, but it screams intimacy.
No kidding. And then the cufflink.
The cufflink. He finds Caleb's fancy silver cufflink, a gift from their father, in Anya's car.
And their story.
Oh, perfectly smooth. She gave Caleb a ride to check on flowers. His car was in the shop. Caleb tells the exact same story. It felt rehearsed to Elias.
So his suspicion is really building now. He must be falling apart.
He is. The story details it: losing weight, dark circles, constant anxiety. He starts seeing a therapist, Dr. Eris Blackwell.
Does he tell Anya?
No, keeps it secret. It's like his first quiet admission to himself that something is seriously wrong, even if he doesn't know what.
And he's still trying to fix things.
Desperately. Buys gifts, plans surprises, but the harder he tries, the colder she gets.
Until she suggests postponing.
Yeah, just 3 weeks before the wedding, she frames it as concern for him, saying maybe they're rushing things.
How does he react?
He breaks down, begs her to just be honest, but her reaction, chillingly emotionless, according to the narrative.
God. And then the 3 a.m. discovery.
That's the point of no return. Wakes up, bed's empty, hears whispering from the guest room.
What does he hear?
Phrases like, not now, he'll hear us, and I know, soon, I promise.
Oh, man. That's it. The whispers become reality.
The undeniable, crushing reality.
So what does he do after hearing that?
That undeniable proof, it just hardens him. The next day, he decides he needs to see it. He needs absolute confirmation.
Yeah.
He decides to surprise Anya at her office with lunch, armed with this quiet, awful dread.
Oh, wow. And on the way there, his dad calls.
Yeah, the irony is just brutal. His father calls, worried about the weight loss, telling Elias that Anya should be treating him like a king. Right at that moment.
Unbelievable. So he gets to her office.
And the assistant, Maria, her reaction gives it all away. She's panicked, trying to block him, saying Anya specifically asked not to be disturbed.
That confirms it, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Elias pushes past her, opens Anya's office door.
And sees them.
Sees them. The story describes it really vividly. Anya and Caleb kissing passionately, totally lost in it. Neither even notices him for a few seconds.
Just agonizing seconds of seeing the betrayal laid bare.
Exactly. Then they spring apart.
What's the first thing said?
Caleb, of course.
Yeah.
The classic denial. This isn't what it looks like.
Yeah.
But Anya, surprisingly, she's almost defiant, says something like, we didn't plan this. It just happened.
Oh, it just happened line.
Mm-hmm. But Elias, the story says he's eerily calm. He just asks one thing.
How long?
How long? Caleb tries to deflect. Let's discuss this privately. But Elias just repeats the question.
And Anya answers.
Steadily. 4 months since the engagement party.
4 months. Wow. So almost half their engagement.
While he was planning every detail of their future together, Caleb tries again, that smooth excuse, trying to find the right time to tell him.
Right. And Elias drops the sushi.
Yeah, the lunch he brought. Just
Wow.
drops it, symbolizing everything shattering. He just says, I trusted you, both of you.
Does Anya show any remorse, though?
A flicker, maybe. She says they tried to fight it, but Elias isn't having it. He cuts her off when she uses his nickname.
Good for him.
He points out these weren't mistakes. They were choices. Every secret meeting, every text, every lie.
And Caleb tries to have him thrown out.
Calls the assistant, Maria, to escort Elias out, but Elias leaves on his own terms. I am escorting myself out, burning that image into his mind.
And his last thought.
You deserve each other. Just cold finality.
Okay, so the immediate aftermath must have been brutal.
Utterly shattering. Tears in the elevator, can't breathe, calls his parents from a public bathroom floor. They rush over with an emergency key.
He tells them everything.
Yeah, while his mother holds him and his father is just pacing, furious, threatening Caleb.
And then the practical stuff kicks in, canceling everything.
Mother helps with that, canceling venues, returning gifts. Father's lawyers get involved to recoup costs.
And he finds out Caleb moved in with her quickly.
Yeah. Insult to injury. Finds out Caleb's stuff is already where his used to be.
Yeah.
Then gets a cold email from Anya about dividing assets, mentioning Caleb helped her catalog everything.
Just twisting the knife. What about friends? How did they react?
It's interesting how the story portrays that. It fractured his social circle. Some friends were loyal, stood by him.
The others.
Others sided with Caleb and Anya. Some even used Elias's supposed coldness or work focus to somehow justify the affair.
That must have stung.
Terribly. And then there were those who apparently saw things, saw the flirtation, but just didn't say anything, didn't want to get involved.
Betrayal ripples outwards, doesn't it?
Absolutely. His mother becomes his rock through this, bringing food, listening, staying over, just being there.
Any attempt at family reconciliation?
They try. Failed attempts at tense family dinners. It ends badly.
How badly?
There's one really bitter argument where Caleb lashes out, says something like, Elias always got everything first, I got the better version, implying Anya wasn't just a prize.
Wow.
Elias just loses it, leaves. That's the last time he's really in a room with both of them for a long time.
And the impact on the parents?
Huge toll. The stress flares up father's heart problems. Mother seems to age overnight from the grief. The cost just keeps spreading.
So Elias hits rock bottom.
About 6 months later, therapist diagnoses severe depression, suggests medication. Work is suffering badly.
He loses a client.
A major one. Apparently breaks down during a board meeting. His boss suggests he take a leave of absence. He's really spiraling.
This is where the London opportunity comes up.
Exactly. A managing partner role opens up in the company's London office. He jumps at it, applies immediately.
An escape hatch.
Totally. The story notes his desperation probably read as ambition, which ironically helped him get the job. He needed to get away.
That conversation with his mother while packing. That sounds intense.
It's really poignant. She asks if he can ever forgive them. He's honest. I don't know. Not now. Maybe not ever.
And she talks about forgiveness being for yourself.
Yeah, about freeing yourself. But Elias counters, I am freeing myself, moving to London.
But she points out running isn't healing.
Gently. Yeah. Running away isn't the same as healing. Elias breaks down, explains he just needs the space, the distance to even start thinking about healing.
When she understands.
She promises to call, makes him promise not to shut them out. Saying goodbye to his father is emotional too.
What does his father say?
Gruff, but loving, tells him, you show them, son. Build a life so good they'll choke on their regret. That becomes a quiet motivator later.
So, off to London. Is it better immediately?
Not at all. Initial period sounds bleak, sterile flat, long hours, takeout food, pure exhaustion. Survival mode, basically.
And then he gets news from home?
The worst kind. Mother calls. Caleb and Anya got married.
Oh. Good.
Small civil ceremony, apparently. But because of father's connections, it still made the Boston Society pages.
And the picture.
The picture showed Anya wearing his old engagement ring, the one he designed for her.
That's just cruel. How does he take that?
That night is his absolute lowest point described in the story. Drinking, looking at old photos, crying, calling in sick. Just broken.
But something shifts.
Yes. As dawn breaks, he makes a decision. No more. He's not giving them any more power over him.
What does he do?
Deletes all the photos, blocks them everywhere, cuts the digital cord, takes a long shower, trying to symbolically wash it all away.
A turning point.
A huge one. He starts channeling all that pain, that anger into his work, relentless focus, fierce drive.
And people notice.
His boss does. Gives him bigger clients, more responsibility. He starts building a serious reputation in London for innovation, dedication, earning respect.
And outside of work, does he start rebuilding a life?
Slowly.
Yeah.
Painstakingly. His first real friend is a woman named Dr. Lena Hansen, head of data analytics at his firm. She gets him into her jogging club.
So, a crack of light.
A small one. Through Lena, he starts building a small social circle. She tries setting him up on dates.
But he's not ready.
Not even close. The story says he declines. Still terrified of being vulnerable, of that pain happening again. The trust is just shattered.
Then he meets Isabella.
Yes. At an investment conference in Dubai. Isabella Rossi. She's a big deal venture capitalist from New York.
And she's different from Anya.
Completely different, based on the description. Bold, brilliant, logical, sharp wit, passionate but not boastful, grounded, authentic.
How do they connect?
She actually asks for his card, surprises him, then emails him the next morning to continue a conversation they'd started about ideas, not just work.
Interesting. So they stay in touch.
For about 3 months, yeah. Mostly professional at first, referring clients, making introductions.
But his friend Lena sees something more.
Lena calls it, tells him straight up, she likes you. And not just professionally.
And Elias.
Still hesitant.
Totally. Insists they're just colleagues. But the narrative admits there's a flicker of something new, something hopeful starting in him, despite the fear.
So Isabella makes the first move.
Eventually, yes. Asks him to dinner, making it clear it's not about work.
How does that go?
He panics beforehand.
Okay.
And then 20 minutes into the date, talking about philosophy, he has a full-blown panic attack.
Oh, God. How does she react?
Amazingly well. This
Yep.
is where you see her character totally calm, guides his breathing, drives him home, no pressure, no judgment.
Wow.
Then sends an orchid the next day. The note just says, no pressure, no expectations, respecting his space completely.
That must have meant a lot.
It seems to have broken through his defenses. That evening, he calls her.
And tells her everything.
Haltingly, yes, the whole story about Anya and Caleb, she just listens. No interruptions, no judgment.
And then she shares her own story.
That's the key. She shares her own profound heartbreak. Husband left her for his business partner, took half their company.
Mutual understanding of that specific kind of betrayal.
Exactly. It creates this deep, immediate bond. Isabella says something really insightful. Broken trust leaves scars. Healing isn't linear, acknowledging it's a process.
So they take it slow.
Very intentionally.
Right.
Build friendship first. She never pushes romantically, always respects his boundaries. If he starts to panic, she knows how to help. They cook at her place instead of going to restaurants to avoid triggers.
She sounds incredibly patient and understanding. Steadfastly present is how the story puts it. And for the first time since everything happened, Elias starts to believe that maybe trust, maybe real connection is possible again.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. 1 year after moving to London, how's Elias doing?
The transformation is pretty remarkable. He's been promoted to managing partner, corner office, overlooking the Thames.
Nice.
His social circle has grown, real friends, close confidants, and he's fallen deeply in love with Isabella.
How does the story describe her love?
Consistent, thoughtful, remembers small things, respects his independence, unwavering support, never compares him, never tries to change him, just accepts him.
He meets her family.
Yes, meets her brother, Matteo. They hit it off, develop their own friendship. He feels woven into a new, healthy family dynamic.
What about his own family? Contact with them?
Still keeps in touch, mainly with his mother, weekly calls, but they carefully avoid talking about Caleb and Anya.
Does he visit Boston?
Only when he knows Caleb and Anya will be out of town.
Does his mother give him any updates on them?
It's very limited. Says their marriage looks perfect online. They bought some fancy coastal house. Caleb asks about Elias sometimes.
Does Caleb sound regretful?
Mother just sighs and says, in his way, gets quiet. Doesn't sound like a real apology.
Is Elias still in therapy?
Yes, continues in London, working through the betrayal, building healthier patterns, learning his triggers, communicating boundaries. The nightmares are fading. He's doing the work.
And then Isabel proposes.
She does. Surprise trip to the Scottish Highlands. He's feeling present, happy. She proposes under this ancient oak tree.
What does she say?
Tells him knowing him is the greatest gift, and that whenever he's ready, I'll be here, waiting for him.
Does he hesitate? Does the past flashback?
For a second, yes. An involuntary flash of Anya, the betrayal, the ring. But then he looks into Isabella's eyes, sees total sincerity, unconditional love.
And the present overrides the past.
Completely. He says, yes, I'm ready now.
And her ring for him.
Simple platinum band, brilliant cut emerald. The story deliberately contrasts it with Anya's bespoke diamond. This one symbolizes substance, not show.
He tells his parents.
Calls them right away. Their joy is just pure, unclouded happiness for him.
They plan the wedding.
Small, intimate, 30 guests, historic London manor.
Does his mother suggest inviting Caleb and Anya?
She does, quietly. Still hoping for some kind of healing, maybe? Suggests it as a gesture.
How do they respond?
Brief, cold email refusal, prior commitments, shows they haven't really changed.
So the wedding goes ahead without them.
Yeah, and it's described as just intimate and joyful. His parents, new friends, Isabella's family. His father walks him down the aisle, tells him he hasn't seen him this happy in years.
Isabel's vows must have been powerful.
Very. Acknowledging how fragile trust can be, promising to be worthy of the trust he's placed in her, it sounds incredibly moving.
So they build their life. London Brownstone, careers thriving.
Yep. Elias becomes VP of European Operations. Isabella's VC firm is doing great, focusing on ethical, women-led startups. Success built on integrity.
And then comes the unexpected connection, the twist.
Right. At a business dinner, years later, Elias overhears someone talking about Caleb Madison's past investment rivalry with Isabella Rossi.
No way. What happened?
Apparently, about 7 years back, before Elias even met Isabella, they were competing angel investors. Isabella backed a startup that became huge, got acquired for millions. Caleb backed its competitor, which went bankrupt.
So Isabella beat him professionally.
Decisively, and the person telling the story mentioned Caleb was quite bitter about it.
Does Elias confront Isabella about this?
He asks her about it later, yeah, and she admits it.
She knew who he was all along.
She knew who Caleb was professionally. And when she met Elias, she knew he was engaged to Caleb Madison's wife. She knew the kind of man Caleb was, what he valued.
Why didn't you tell Elias sooner?
Her reason was she wanted him to know her for who she was, not through the lens of her past conflict with Caleb. Didn't want it to taint things.
How does Elias react to finding this out? Is he angry?
Not at all. He feels this sense of cosmic symmetry. The story calls it the architect's unseen invoice.
Meaning
Isabella didn't just heal his heart. She had already, unknowingly to him, triumphed over Caleb in the arena. Caleb respected most business success. Justice had sort of already been served, in a way.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us closer to the end. The family crisis.
Yeah, 2 years into their marriage, father's health declined sharply. The stress from the whole family rift really took its toll on his heart.
The 70th birthday gala becomes a memorial.
Sadly, yes. Elias and Isabella fly back to Boston to help his mother.
Does Elias get to talk to his father before he passes?
Yes, they have some deep, honest conversations about life, legacy, and his father makes him promise to try and find peace with Caleb.
For whose sake?
Not for him, father says, but for yourself. For your old man. Elias promises, though he's unsure he can keep it. Father passes peacefully with them there.
Yes, of course, Caleb.
First direct contact in years. Just tells him Dad's gone. Caleb agrees to come. The reunion is awkward, focused just on the funeral plans.
Then the memorial gala itself, the final confrontation setting.
Exactly. Somber atmosphere. Elias is there with Isabella, his mother. Caleb and Anya arrive.
How's their entrance?
Causes a stir. Whispers. Anya's dressed expensively, wearing that ring prominently. Caleb's got his arm around her, looking forced. Mother stiffens. They approach Elias and his mother with these practiced smiles.
And Anya wants to talk to Elias alone.
Yes. Asked to speak privately. He agrees, mainly to avoid a scene.
What'd you want? An apology.
She tries. Hushed voice. Sorry about his father, then. Sorry for everything. Mistakes.
How does Elias respond this time?
He's different now. Harder, like she observes. He tells her flat out, not mistakes, conscious choices. Active betrayal. Marrying him with his ring was a calculated act.
He calls her out.
Completely. He sees her motive isn't real remorse, it's about salvaging her image. Notes her patronizing tone about his success.
Then Caleb interrupts.
Yeah, comes in suspiciously, asks if Anya is harassing Elias. She leans into Caleb, just catching up. Elias says there's nothing to catch up on.
Caleb tries to smooth things over.
Tries the civil apology route again. Misunderstandings, hopes Elias has moved on. Keeps that possessive arm around Anya.
And then Isabella arrives.
Perfectly timed entrance. Stands in the doorway. Cool, confident voice just says, he certainly has.
Oh, the reveal.
Elias introduces her. Caleb, Anya, this is my wife, Isabella.
What's their reaction?
Anya, pure shock. Face goes white, jaw drops, Caleb freezes, arm slackens, then stunned recognition. Isabella. Isabella Rossi.
Elias confirms it.
Calmly, yes. Married a year ago. Beautiful ceremony. And Isabella meets Caleb's gaze. Adds that little touch. Pleasure to finally meet you, Caleb. Elias has told me so much about you. That subtle emphasis.
How does Caleb take that?
His face just crumples, according to the story. Disbelief, fury, total humiliation. His whole image shatters. He manages this weak, nervous laugh. Bit quick, wasn't it?
And Elias's response.
This is his moment of quiet triumph, spoken from genuine happiness. Not at all. When you find the right person, the one who truly values you, you don't waste time.
And then he connects the dots for Caleb.
Oh, yeah. Lands the final blow. Mentions Isabella is quite familiar with your professional history. Adds that bit about the universe balancing the scales.
Caleb must understand everything in that moment.
Completely. Grabs Anya, drags her out. Faces of shock, dawning dread. They get it. The revenge wasn't planned. It was just Elias living well, finding happiness with the woman connected to Caleb's professional failure.
So after they leave, how does Elias feel?
Isabella asks if he's okay. His reply, never better. He thanks her. They walk out together, hand in hand.
People notice.
Eyes follow them. Whispers follow Caleb and Anya. His mother sees them together, gives this genuine, happy smile. The rest of the memorial is about his father, but for Elias, there's this deep sense of peace, quiet triumph. Anya's ring suddenly looks cheap.
The reflection at the end sums it up.
Beautifully. His journey from shattered to whole. Realizing his legacy isn't just the family business, it's his own integrity, resilience. His father built an empire, Elias rebuilt himself.
Isabella is the cornerstone.
Testament to earned love, earned trust. The betrayal is part of his history, but it doesn't define him anymore. He's the architect of his own life now, finally free.
Wow. That really is quite a journey. When you unpack it like that, what do you think we can really take away from this? I mean, it's such a powerful example of resilience, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It really forces you to look at how messy healing is, especially from that kind of deep betrayal, Family betrayal on top of romantic betrayal. It's not instant. It's hard, painstaking work. And it makes you question what success really means. Is it the life you mapped out perfectly? Or is it finding something authentic, something meaningful, even after that original map is torn to shreds?
And the whole revenge aspect. It wasn't really revenge in the typical sense.
Not at all. That's what's so interesting. His ultimate revenge wasn't some plot he hatched. It just happened. It was the natural result of him focusing on his own healing, building a good life, finding someone who genuinely valued him.
Their downfall, or at least their humiliation in that moment, it wasn't something he engineered. It was just the contrast between his reality and theirs.
Exactly. Which raises a really interesting question for you listening to this. Think about times you've been wronged. How different is focusing on building your own happiness, your own well-being, compared to actively wanting or seeking payback? Which path actually leads to lasting peace? Is the best revenge maybe the only real kind? Just living your best life, completely separate from the people who hurt you.
It's definitely something to think about. And it really shows, whether it's deep academic research or one incredibly personal story like this, there are always these profound insights about just being human, waiting to be found.